Okay, what's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. I am super excited about this time's first presenter, Dr. Nona Djavid, on our webinar series. But you literally have to be hiding under a rock if you do not know this incredible woman. And I am beyond grateful for the powers that be in the universe and the amazing people in my life who made it possible for our paths to cross. I've actually been in the audience and heard her speak twice. And I will tell you that each and every time she does, I can't even tell you what it does from the inside out. She is inspirational, uplifting, a chiropractic. She's exactly what I just love you, Nona.
Oh, thank you.
Outside of just being a chiropractor, she's a certified life coach, an NLP practitioner, a chiropractic coach, a platinum partner with my main man and love of my life outside of my husband and child, the Mr. Tony Robbins. And she is like completely obsessed with like personal growth and just having incredible life experiences, which she totally does. And so I think that's probably what attracts everybody and gravitates them to you on a personal level and a professional level. But I'm just so incredibly blessed to have you in my life as well.
Thank you so much. That's the sweetest formal, non-formal introduction that I've ever had. And I've done a ton of podcasts and a ton of webinars. So super appreciative of that.
Well, we make people submit their bio and I'm like, oh, this is nice, but I don't care about that. I like to tell a personal story and like, why did you get picked? It's not because you have an incredible bio, but it's definitely because of the impact. One of the people who are just so, like you have like the hugest fan base and some of my closest friends in the world. But number two, because I have had the benefit of hearing you speak in person several times, listen to your coffee talks. And I can tell you that it's not a lot of people who touch me in such a way that inspire me to do better, be better, and have such an impact on this profession, professionally, and then just have an impact personally. So thank you.
Thank you. So sweet. And literally the same. So, you and I have connected. I don't see you anymore, so I'm assuming you're here somewhere. But
I am.
Yes, you are. Okay. You and I have connected, and like I'm so appreciative of who you are and what you do for chiropractic and what you do for chiropractors. And I'm super excited to be here today.
Well, thank you so much. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. Perfect. So we are going to be talking about running a part-time $1 million cash-based practice. And so we don't have, how much time do I have again?
You can have a whole hour.
Whole hour. Okay. A whole hour will not fit everything that it takes to run or build or grow a part-time $1 million cash-based practice. And also let me preface and sort of build the foundation for you guys that when I say part-time $1 million practice, I don't make the assumption that that is for everybody, but the concept behind this kind of practice actually comes from burning out. So if you've ever felt like you are burning out in practice, if you've ever felt like there's more to be juiced out of your practice or out of life, that's really who I'm speaking to. If you feel like there's more profitability that needs to happen inside of the practice, or there is less time that you need to be spending inside of your practice, and that's really who I speak to. So again, don't get intimidated by the whole part-time $1 million practice. I'll share with you what my journey has been in this process, and I'll share 3 to 4 or 5, I don't know, however many things that we have time for, of the things that have been instrumental in creating the practice that I created, and in the things that I teach inside of Part-Time $1 Million Mastermind or Elevate Club. Those are some of the things that I have. And also want to make sure that you know that I'm accessible. Christy mentioned all the great things about me, which I want to make sure there is no separation between you and I, or between the chiropractors watching this or listening to this. And what I do, I'm accessible. You can connect with me on social media, email, phone, anything, and I'm here to support chiropractic to move forward. So a little bit about me. When I first got out of school, I actually signed up almost immediately with a practice management group, and then I tested and tried different practice management groups, and I was absolutely 100% successful at it. So I would follow the recipe, and if you've ever been with a practice management group, you probably already know the terms or the phrases like just follow the recipe, just follow the scripts or whatever. And I did. I was like A-type student. I don't know if any of you guys, if there's any engagement or participation that can happen, please utilize the chat box, because I feel like I'm talking to myself until somebody in the chat box, like, at least give me a thumbs up or something. But if you've ever experienced that in a practice management group, there's a lot of that conversation where consciously or subconsciously sort of fits you into a box. And I was really good at it. I got so good at it that I started to coach for one of the practice management groups. And so I knew all the scripts, and it was working really well in my practice. My practice doubled and tripled over the years. And so on the surface, it looked like what you would consider a successful practice. However, underneath all of that, I was starting to burn out. We're talking 3 years into practice. I don't even have children yet. There is no reason for me to burn out. However, I started to burn out. And part of that process was I recognized quite a few things. And one of the things that I recognized was that I wasn't doing things that were authentic and real to me. I was kind of making myself and my practice and my patients fit into a box. And as I was doing that, like I said, it was successful. However, it was leaving me burning out. And the systems, while they were reproducible, as in the scripts were the scripts, the systems were the systems, ways of communication, but they were not reproducible with every kind of patient that would come in, okay? And I'll explain. So the very first thing that I did was determine what kind of patients I wanted to see in my clinic. So I determined what that niche market looked like, what my avatar looked like, who I wanted to surround myself with on day-to-day basis, myself and or later if I have an associate or when I bring an associate, who would I want them to take care of? Now, here's what happens. The systems that are put together by practice management groups, typically the sales processes and the patient journeys and the scripts are designed back in the 80s, right? So if you agree with me, I still don't have anybody in the chats, but like, give me a thumbs up if you know what I'm talking about. And so those systems, like I said, while they were working, they weren't designed for every group of every population of patients. Like, clearly you would talk to moms differently than you would. Thank you, Amy. Oh, I'm getting some yeses. Thank you, Keisha, Mike. Oh, I know Mike, or I've seen your name on Facebook stuff. But anyways, so when thank you, you guys. I Mercedes 80s. That's right. I appreciate you guys engaging with me. It makes it so much more fun. So anyways, as you implement those, then you start to realize, wait a second, that language really only works for a certain portion of the population. Nowadays, and thank God for that, we have chiropractors that specialize in or want to see more children, chiropractors that want to see more of the geriatric population, more sports focused, more focused on kids on the spectrum. And I know this is a philosophical thing because we want to take care of everybody. However, you're not saying no to other people, but you are fine-tuning so that you can actually speak the very specific language of the kid on the spectrum, or the mom with the kid on the spectrum, the very specific language that is the mother between the ages of 35 and 45 with 2 little kids. And I'm just going to give you one example. This example I've used in the past, and people are like, really get it, because you hear this all the time. It's not a new concept to have a niche or to have a to create that avatar. That's not a new concept. You probably gets thrown around a lot. However, I think that it's important to understand how specific your niche needs to be. There is, and this is an example I usually use. For me, I'm a mom between the ages of 35 and 45. You know, I won't tell you exactly how many years I've lived, but hey, 35 and 45. And I am an entrepreneur. I happen to be a chiropractor. I am active. I am not a stay-at-home mom. I go to the gym. I don't go to yoga. So there's specific things about me. Now, one of the things that's specific about me is I've got 2 kids. My 7-year-old, almost 7-year-old, and I've got 2 boys, 1's 7 and 1 is 3. Okay. Now, I have a friend who's a chiropractor, and her name is Allison. She's actually one of the coaches of my mastermind, Part-Time $1 Million Mastermind. She teaches the new doctors how to build their practices. And so we're very similar, and we're in the same economic background. We're in the same, I'm Persian, she's white, sure, but we're pretty much the same person. And she's got a couple of kids, but her kids are teenagers, okay? Now, here's the thing. That population, Allison as a population or as an avatar, and me as an avatar, when it comes down to being a mom, we have completely different needs. I'm over here, my 3-year-old's not sleeping well. That's my challenge. That's my pain. That's my struggle. Allison's struggle is driving her kids around for different sporting events. So you'll want to get as specific as you possibly can, and then really have like a notepad or something at the side of your adjusting table. And as your people are coming in, your people, the avatar you want to see, ask them some questions, or without asking them, write down the things that they are saying, the way that they say things. Someone who's a CrossFit person, works out at the gym, they're not going to describe their pain as pain. They're going to say, I am sore, I am tight. But then on the other side, a middle-aged woman is going to say, I'm fatigued. They're not going to say I'm tired or I'm low energy. They will definitely say, I have pain in this area. So you'll want to create systems and ways of communication that match with the kind of population you want to see. There's so many benefits to this, aside from the fact that now these ways of communication are reproducible. Because every mom that comes in with little kids who fits into this demographic, 9 out of 10 times expresses their struggles, expresses their pain the same way. And now, as I am this mom who's an entrepreneur, works, and blah, 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 and goes into the office of the chiropractor, and I see the office is filled with these moms with little kids just like me, I feel like home. And guess what? I also happen to know more moms that are like me, because that's who I relate to. The mom with the 2 little kids who's an entrepreneur who has certain criteria. And so am I more likely to refer people to you in that case? What do you guys think? Yes or no? Put it in the comments for me. And so that was one of the things, one of the changes and the shifts that I made inside of the practice, to be able to create an environment that not only was reproducible. If I brought in an associate, then the associate could speak the same exact language, so that it didn't, the challenge with bringing an associate and being able to gain some freedom from your practice to leave, to, go on vacation. I know that we can all do that right now. But I remember being like, I can't really go away more than a week or 2 weeks max. Like, there's no way I could even think about going away or taking a month off. Thankfully, I was able to put some of these systems in place prior to having kids. So I took a long maternity, and while I was on maternity, my practice grew. And I definitely, it was by design. It didn't haphazardly happen. When you bring in an associate, especially nowadays, they're not necessarily trained. They're not the best communicators, especially if they're new, and if they're older, established doctors, and they're not easy to train. However, when you focus, when it's patient-centered, and you're like, this is what my patient, this is how they speak, and this is their needs, and this is their struggle, and this is how we communicate that to them on a day 1 or a day 2 or a day 3, if you run a day 3 process. But if that's the case, then it can stay the same every time. It's not like you have somebody from a CrossFit come in, and a mom come in, and somebody with a kid on the spectrum come in. So that was one. Now, the second thing I want to share with you, it's really kind of like, it is chiropractic, but it's not chiropractic. This principle, this success principle, you could use to create success anywhere, right? Like in your business, in your life, in any area of your life. But it was instrumental. It was instrumental in taking me away from burnout. And it was also lack of this, which I'm going to tell you what it is. Lack of this thing was the reason, I'm going to say the main reason that I burnt out. So I don't know how many of you are like newer doctors or established doctors, but when you get out and you set to create a practice, 9 out of 10 times your focus is on building a practice, growing the practice, getting it to a certain point where it's profitable, and then it's massively profitable, hopefully, and then getting somebody to hopefully help you out inside of the practice, and then growing it, doubling it, and multiplying it and whatnot. Now, I want to challenge you, which I know it's hard for chiropractors to think about this, because we get into chiropractic because we want to be healers, we want to help people, and I get it. However, did you ever think, at least when you were building your practice, or if you're new to chiropractic, like as you're building your practice, did you ever think that what your life was going to look like? Did you ever consider the vision that you have for your life? Did you ever consider, I want to have kids, or I want to be around my children, or I want to travel the world, or I want to have adventure outside of chiropractic? Or or maybe it's none of those. Maybe it's something, I want to do real estate also on the side. Did you ever consider, and I want you to get an honest answer in the chat box, did you ever consider or think about, especially in the building phases, what your life was going to look like? And then asking yourself the question of, this practice that I'm creating, does it, or is it going to support that life? You'd be surprised how many chiropractors I come across that, men and women that have been doing chiropractic for some time, and they are burnt out, and they come to me and they're like, I want to work less, or I want to make more money working less, because my kids are now grown and I feel like I missed out and I was too focused on my practice. Or they'll say, I work too hard and I don't have time to work on my business. I'm constantly working in my business. I'm a slave to my clinic. So all of those things are coming up. Why? Because we set out and we go, all right, I'm going to create this practice. And we forget that there's sort of a subluxation there, if you would, because to me, chiropractic is so freaking powerful. So powerful. As a matter of fact, chiropractic to me, I don't know what kind of crowd I'm speaking to, but like chiropractic to me is not just about neck pain and back pain. Hopefully you guys agree with that. Give me a yes on that one. And I think that chiropractic, even if you think it's about neck pain and back pain, it gives people their life back. It is the life potential that you are giving to your patients, and it's a beautiful thing. But I also think that you are going to act out of alignment. It's out of integrity to not live life, your own life, to not express fully who you are in all the different areas. I think that if you're not living your life to the fullest of your potential, and I'm not just talking you getting adjusted and eating healthy and having good posture and exercising and all the things, taking your vitamins. I'm not talking chiropractic lifestyle. I'm talking beyond. That's a given. That's like foundational. You got to have that. But what about living life outside of your chiropractic office? And maybe it's not outside of it. Maybe it's integrated. But have you had some thinking hours, some chunk of a couple of hours where you sit down and you're like, this is the life that I want, and then this is how the practice is going to support this kind of life. You know, I want this kind of a house. I want to travel this way. I want to be around my kids. I want to send them to private school, whatever that might look like, and then working your way backwards. So number one is creating a niche and customizing your practice like we talked about. Number two is having a practice vision, knowing where you want to take your practice. However, prior to getting there is creating a life vision of what your life looks like, and then making sure that the practice integrates with that kind of life or supports that kind of life. And I think that is, there's a challenge there for chiropractors because, you know, nobody really talks about that. And that was the second thing that I did that helped me sort of create that. So who do you want for your patients? Who do you want? What do you want your life and your practice to look like? I'll give you another one. The third area. Any questions so far, you guys? Comments? Anything? We're all good? Okay. So the third thing that I made a shift and moved around was who I was as a person, who I was as the chiropractor, and how I communicated my passion, my compassion, my love for chiropractic, and how I would educate that, how I would educate my my patients about that. And what was important in that process was a lot of self-discovery, a lot of tapping into who I am as a person. For example, I discovered through that process, while a lot of the things I had learned from the practice management groups, they were kind of like fit into this box. And that box, unfortunately, was like masculine and pushy and salesy. And, you know, we probably already know, like somebody in here called it the Mercedes 80s. We've heard that before, but like that was the box. And I was like, that's not who I am. That's not only am I not serving that population, but also that's not who I am. So with a lot of gratitude, I put that aside and I started to create systems and ways of communications that were not only authentic and in alignment, and they spoke truth to my population, point number one that we made, but also they were important and they were aligned with how I communicated. Now I can have any associate. I don't have to have a gem of an associate. And, you know, any associate can come into the picture, and the ways that I communicate can be taught to them because the population responds to them. It doesn't matter who's sitting in front of them. That population specifically responds to that. So Krista says, well, let me recap real quick. I got number one, we talked about the niche. Number two, we talked about creating a vision for your practice, making a vision for your life. And number three, knowing exactly who you are, what your core values are, and then designing your practice based on that, creating systems and ways of communication that are aligned with all of those. Let's see. Krista says, I have a 9-year-old son trying to balance mom and being a doctor of chiropractic, all while growing my practice. And that is hard. And I will give it to you, Krista. It is one of the hardest things to do, to raise a child, have a practice. And then there's all these other roles that we play. Like on the surface in this chat room, it looks like mom and practice, but there's so many other things that you do, Krista, that make it challenging. So in terms of balance, this is an advice that I've gotten in the past that's been working for me because I have multiple businesses. I have investments. I've got my mastermind that I run, and I have a couple of weight loss clinics here in Orange County. and I do so many different projects. So I remember being overwhelmed, especially in the thick of motherhood. And this advice that one of my mentors gave me was really, really helpful. And so hopefully this will speak to you. And the advice was, you might have so many projects, right? If you can think of your projects or your roles, different ways that you identify, you can think of those as like cards, right? And you have all of these cards on the table. Like there's, here I am a mom, here I am a wife or a spouse or a partner. Here I am I've got my weight loss company. Here I got my chiropractic company. Here I got my mastermind. So there's all these different cards. You cannot possibly manage all of these things at the same time. And if you do, you're not going to do a great job at it. However, if you just pick one of the cards up and you take a look at it and you give it in that time chunk, this is where time blocking is a really good idea, but in that time chunk, you look at that card, say your motherhood, and it's like spending time with your 9-year-old son. Like for me, it's like, that's the time chunk, believe it or not. I know it sounds kind of neurotic, but it's on my calendar. And I will 100% be there, be present, and I will give them 100% of my time and energy. Now, when I'm in the office and I'm working on, say, my weight loss company, which I have days and time chunks that I focus on that specifically, I'll pick that card up and I'll be like 100% weight loss company. Where do I want to take it? What are the things that we need to be doing? And another thing I will tell you is that there is, in this process of running motherhood and balancing things, just remember there is no such thing as balance. There's just absolutely no balance. There is present time consciousness, but there is no balance. And another thing I will give you is integration. How can I integrate my life and my businesses all at the same time so that life is business and business is life, but I have enough separation where I can be present in each of these categories? So hopefully that will help. And Amy says, we are already doing all of these things, 14 years into practice, treating out of the box, and it has not been profitable for us. How do you find the balance? We don't have high volume, we have high touch and excellent results. Treating out of the box, and it has not been profitable. I'd have to know way more about your practice to answer that. I will say this, majority of practices that are established, that on the surface they are doing well, the number one blind spot in all of this is actually for chiropractors, retention, right? So retention might be an issue that's not there. And if retention is not there, then you're just kind of constantly looking for patients. I don't know. It's really difficult for me to answer that question. Now, if you give me more details, perhaps I can help. All right, so I want to give you guys one, and I am doing, Christy, I don't know if this is okay or not, but I'm doing a workshop on retention. So 5 days, it's a 5-day masterclass, and feel free to connect with me if this is okay. But in 5 days, I'm going to give you all the different ways that I know of to improve retention. Now, for the purpose of this webinar, I want to give you at least one more thing. Now, I'm going to give you a little background of this. Christy remembers I shared this in a talk that I recently gave in DC to chiropractors. Doesn't necessarily have to do with your practice, but it does have to do with, it's a success principle that has been with me for a very long time, and I've been able to incorporate it in different things, and I think you might like this. And there are a couple of components into it, so bear with me. One of the first things I want to share with you is the importance. This is a success principle. It doesn't have to do with chiropractic, but it has to do with entrepreneurship. How do you move things forward? The very first thing I want to tell you is that I have interviewed hundreds of entrepreneurs, not just chiropractors, but very successful entrepreneurs. I have been super lucky to have access to people like Marcus Lemonis and Grant Cardone and a bunch of other people. and I've been able to sit down with them and pick their brains. But I'll tell you, the things that I have learned about their secret sauces, of what made them successful and what why they were able to accomplish all the things that they were able to accomplish, they're pretty simple and they're pretty basic. So if you take these principles and you apply them in your entrepreneurial journey, you will be able to move forward in this process, whether it's a part-time $1 million practice or anything else you want to create. Now, the very first principle I want to share has to do with the speed of implementation. Hundreds of successful chiropractors, hundreds of successful entrepreneurs that I have interviewed. And you know what? It doesn't matter where they started. Doesn't matter. Some of them are like, I started from scratch. Some of them are like, my dad had money, trust fund babies. Some are like, I slept in my car. Some are shoestring budget. I opened my practice. Some are like, I took a loan. Doesn't matter what their starting point was. Their journeys looked different. But you know what? Number one, across the board, every single one of these entrepreneurs had one thing to say about their secret sauce. I mean, they had multiple things to say, but this one was the common ground, which is speed of implementation. When they have an idea, when something tugs at their heart, when they come up with something, when they learn something new, they will move fast. They move fast. And sometimes moving fast means saying no really quickly. And a lot of times it's saying yes really quickly. Now, here's what I noticed. They don't necessarily, they say yes. When they do say yes, it doesn't mean that they have like confidence that this thing is like the right decision. It doesn't mean like they eliminated the no because this was 100% yes. It's actually not like that. What it is that they have confidence and they have trust that perhaps this is the right decision. More importantly, they have trust and confidence in themselves that if this is the wrong decision, I'm going to be able to come back from it, learn from it, and move on and do better anyways. Okay. So it's redefining failure for themselves. And I can tell you, if I sat in the maybe, which I have done, because type A personalities, sometimes we can be like, it's got to be perfect for me to do this. And I don't know if you guys relate to that. Like I got perfect timing. At first I got to do this and then I got to do this. No, you move into action and you say a yes or you say a no really quickly and you move really, really fast. This way, you don't have energy tied up in the maybe, in the space of like, maybe it'll work and maybe it won't work. Because if you sit in that energy of maybe, then you don't have certainty. You don't have certainty in yourself and you don't have certainty in the yes decision moving forward. So that success principle is also tied in with another success principle. This one I learned, I'll tell you the story about it because it's really, really cool. This one I learned from Glenn Stern. So I don't know if you guys know who he is. He's not like a big celebrity. However, there's a show called Undercover Billionaire. I'm curious if any of you have seen it. Has anybody watched The Undercover Billionaire with a B? This is a show about, if you haven't, highly recommend it. If you like Shark Tank or anything like that, if you're entrepreneurial, you might enjoy it. But when you go watch it, what the show is about is they take 4 billionaires with a B and they give them $100 and they give them a beat up truck and they tell them to turn this $100 into a $1 million company. Has to turn, Amy has watched it. It has to turn into a $1 million evaluated company, right? Yeah, it's so good. It's such a good show. And so you'll watch all these 4 people take completely different paths and from one another. And I think they all are able to make that move and turn the $100. They take all of their contacts away. They put them in a new town that nobody knows them or whatever. Grant Cardone happens to be one of them. But the show starts out with Glenn Stern. Now, Glenn Stern is in the mortgage industry, and he happens to be local here in Orange County. So I ended up having lunch with him not too long ago. And one of the things that, one thing I forgot about this, and Amy would tell you this, is that they had 90 days to do so. This is important piece of the story. So they have 90 days to turn a $100 bill into a $1 million evaluated company. Okay? Now, how many of you are like, I'm over here trying to make 20K a month. I'm over here trying to, and it's been years, or I'm over here trying to make $1 million practice, and it's been a couple of years. So 90 days to turn this company into $1 million or more company, evaluated at that much. And so I sat down with Glenn Stern and his wife for lunch one time, and you don't know by now, I'm like super into like secret sauces, actually running a whole podcast right now called The Secret Lives of Chiropractors, interviewing them on what's their secret sauces, what makes them successful. So I asked Glenn that question. I go, what is it that made you successful in this process? More importantly, why 90 days? Was there like a logistical thing? Could you only be away for 90 days? Why not 60 days? Why not, 12 months, a whole year to build a $1 million company? Why not 30 days? And he said, you know what? What he said was just so simple and so good. And yet so profound all at the same time. He says, if they'd given me 12 months to take $100 and make it $1 million company, it would have taken me 12 months to do so. And he said, they'd given me 60 days to turn $100 into $1 million company, it would have taken me 60 days. Now, how many of you relate to this? Like, for example, if you have a report that you have to write and they tell you this report is due in 30 days, put in the comments, how many days does it take you to write the report? If I told you it's due in 30 days, typically it would take 30 days to write that report. Now, if I told you it's due in 7 days, you would probably take 7 days to write the report. Now, it doesn't mean that report took 7 days or 30 days. It just means that that's how long you would take to do it. It turns out there's a concept called the sadly yes, right? And so there is a concept called, and you want to write this down, it's called the Parkinson's law, just like Parkinson's. So the Parkinson's law says the amount of time that it takes for you to get any project done, to do anything, to accomplish any goals, or get to reach to a vision that you have, the amount of time that it takes is the amount of time that you allocate to it. Okay, fascinating, true. Like all of you are like, that kind of makes sense, right? The amount of time that it takes for you to accomplish anything, get the report done, double your practice, get to $1 million, get to 20,000 a month, whatever your next landmark is the amount of time that you allocate to that. Now, here's the thing. When you're an entrepreneur, no one is allocating any time. You're like, but you might set some goals and say, hey, by the end of this year, I'm going to double my practice. But because there's no accountability, there's nobody, really doing anything except for like you're on your own, then sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. And so once I watched this show, this was during the pandemic, I decided that I was going to check it out, this Parkinson's law, put it to test and see how it would do. So I run this mastermind. It's called Part-Time $1 Million Mastermind. It's not just for part-time $1 million practices. We have all kinds of practices in there. And we teach principles that bring more profitability and also help you kind of figure out how to gain more freedom from your practice. So inside of the mastermind, I decided I was going to run a 4-week program, and we called it Double Your Practice in 90 Days. Now, I know some of you are like, I've got a good chunk of volume. Like, to double my practice in 90 days, it's not as easy as going from 20 patients a week to 40 patients a week, right? If you're already seeing a good chunk. I kid you not, in these 4 weeks that we did, so we did 4 weeks where I did one session and we kept each other accountable and did all of these things, but we had 90 days to double the practices. Now, I'm going to tell you, not everybody doubled their practices, but every single person who participated in double your practice in 90 days, every single person who participated in that hit some major numbers that they hadn't hit in like 30 years and 20 years and 12 years. Why? Parkinson's law, with added a couple of other ingredients like accountability, support, circle of influence, moving together at the same time to be able to do that. So that became, so these last 2 things that I shared with you, I think that are things that are principles that I have learned that not only have been able to help me in practice, in life, and I have watched these principles. I've watched my members apply these principles and have been able to get from point A to point B where other things have failed them. It's not always about the systems and ways of communication. It's not, I know there's so much out there on how you do your day 1s and day 2s and day 3s. There's definitely strength to that. Like you've got to have these strong systems in place, strong ways of communication in place. However, at the same time, the mindset and the way that you take action and the way that you do things, or the state at which, or the frequency at which you're coming at it and approaching those systems and ways of communication will make or break your practice and your life, or burn you out, if you would. And I saw this inside of the practice, inside of the mastermind. When I started the mastermind and I'm teaching all of these, mainly like systems, communications, marketing, social media, I'm teaching everything that it takes to have a successful practice. But then I'm watching 2 different chiropractors in similar areas, fully implement the same exact things. One runs with it and is super successful. One runs with it and it fails. And so I started to recognize that there was a piece missing to all of this, whether it's from practice management groups or from our profession in general, or we're just kind of where, day 1s, day 2s, and day 3s. So that's a really big piece of it. So today, my hope for today was that we have a combination of like, here are a couple of things I did in my practice, and then here are a couple of things that if you apply them to anything it is that you take as your truth, like that you want to experiment with in your practice, speed of implementation, and then Parkinson's law, and go in to be able to run with it. All right. Let's see, Christy, any questions or anything else that might be good to cover? Or if you guys have any questions, put it in the chat box. If you want to connect with me, ask outside of here.
Thank you so much, Nona.
My pleasure.
I hope y'all got as much from her. Like, doesn't she just give you all the cool, calm vibes? Like, I can totally do this. Did you see this message from Amy that says we've been doing all of these things, trading out of the box, and it has not been profitable for us? How do you find the balance? We don't have high volume, but we have high touch and excellent results.
I did see that, and I believe I kind of responded to that. The thing about that is it's hard for me to determine, like there's so many aspects to that, I have a 14-year-old practice. I've been doing everything outside of the box, but it has not been profitable. I can tell you there was a reason, multiple reasons why it's not profitable. There's no reason why you shouldn't be profitable, but it's hard for me to evaluate that and say, here is why I don't have enough information to do that.
Perfect. Y'all have to forgive me because I am in the office for the first time in like 2 years. And and so people kept coming in and I had to keep like turning you down just a hair a couple of times. When is your 5-day class on retention?
Gosh, I think, don't quote me, but I think August 22nd to the 26th.
Perfect. And where can they get more information about that?
I can get you the link or put it in the chat if you want, because it's kind of a long
Yeah,
long
go ahead.
link.
Put it in the
Yeah.
chat. Um, so we had a couple of people who wanted to say they came in or they came in late or they had to leave early because of patients. They wanted to know if there was going to be a recording. So rest assured, everybody, every one of these presentations is recorded and can be found under our archived webinars on our website. And if you register for the webinar, you get sent the link to the recording because sometimes these nuggets of truth have to be listened to more than once.
And I think I put the link on the right spot. I'm not sure if I did. Did I do it?
It's okay. You put it in one spot. I'm putting it in another. We're going to cover our bases.
Yeah, and I want to add that I'm super accessible. If anybody like just wants to connect and you're struggling in your practice, I would love nothing more than to support you because I've been there. I've been in a place of I want to burn out. I want to get out of chiropractic. So find me somewhere on social media and let me know how I can help you.
Absolutely. And you should definitely follow her on social. I'm just telling you, everybody needs that bit of just warm love and fuzziness and good advice on a daily basis because I know I get something out of it all of the time. So thank you so much, Dr. Nona, for being here today. If you are watching the recording or live, just again, remember you can go to our website, ChiroHealthUSA.com/webinars on the right-hand side. Click on visit the archive and you'll be able to find the link to this recording and many more. Our next webinar is 1 week from today with David Cruz, and it's Are You Avoiding Active Care as part of your treatment plan? Because we like to cover every aspect of your practice. So I just want to thank everyone for being here today. If you have any questions, pop them in the chat box, either in the live presentation or in the recording. They'll be sent to me and I will share them with Dr. Nona. And if you have the opportunity to see Dr. Nona live and in person, I strongly recommend that you sign up and attend her class. Your life will be the better for it. So thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. Bye, y'all.